r/ask Reddit, what is your best fuck it? I've been a nice person my whole life. Now I'm going to do something bad story. I threw a girl's phone, who bullied my friend, out of a Ferris wheel after she asked me to hold it to take a selfie. My arms are long. She said my friend couldn't be in it because she was ugly. It felt really good. My ex's friend would always hit me and kick me, and I couldn't hit her back. So one day at a freshman dance, she hit me with the spike of her high heels, and I grabbed it out of her hand and threw it to the far end of the cafeteria. Fuck you, Michaela. Didn't get along with an old roommate because she moved her boyfriend and dog in. She was generally very messy. He didn't pay rent and her dog was a liquid shit machine. Her dog ruined my lava sack and soaked it with piss and shit. I asked her to repay me for it and have her boyfriend leave, and instead of repaying me, she stole items I kept in all common rooms to spite me, snitched to my landlord, and got her evicted. Also pissed in her shampoo bottle. My elderly mother-in-law made a little wreath to put on the door of her apartment. A couple of days later some asshole complexity destroyed it. She was really sad about it. We put it back together and fixed it. I added lots of pointy needles. I put it back on the door. She told me that she heard some swearing at 6:30 in the morning. It was one of her neighbor. Someone smashed the pumpkin I had on my front porch for Halloween. I was so mad that night I took an old person shit in it. I then put it on the same step my pumpkin was, then hid in my room and watched out the window. I don't know if it was the same kid that smashed my pumpkin that later tried to steal the purse, but the happiness I took from that moment of a kid reaching his hand in the purse while he was walking away to steal the money more than made up for the anger of a smashed pumpkin. I was a teen and found $1,000 in an ATM. This was one of those ATMs that had a place where the money would drop to. This was the early 90s. I don't think they just drop it anymore. They all retract back into the machine if you don't take it. But during this time, that technology didn't exist. I went to the bank to return the money. I was sick of this bank. I was an American expat in Singapore who needed a bank account. Long boring story, but wanted to explain why a teen hated a bank. Anyway, I had to always wait in line, never enough tellers, people were pretty rude, etc. This bank sucked. After waiting for 15 minutes, with one teller and the line still 10 deep, I said to myself, fuck it, I came to return this money. I tried to be honest, but they are making it impossible for me. I went and bought a stereo. It was alright. Perfect attendance from kindergarten all the way to senior year in high school, until a girl asked me to ditch 1 hour with her. Suffice to say, that cost me an award. I'm doing it right now. I'm sort of the linchpin in my family. My older sisters frequently fight each other. My parents don't get along, but I try to hold things together. I help my sister with her mental health, the other one with money, and even though we all live near each other, I'm the only one that visits my parents. I take care of my grandma every day, help anyone that asks, and do so frequently, cook for people constantly, and I'm always the first one back down to avoid a fight. I'm also gay. My dad has been struggling with this for a while, and being his usual shithead self about it to me. I'll let it go. For almost 4 years I let him have wiggle room to work things out, and it's clear now he's made no effort at all. Then came Christmas. My aunt who was hosting insisted I bring my boyfriend who everyone knows and loves already, except, of course, my dad. He had not even met him. We were all in the same house for a while, before I had some liquid courage, and went to my dad, and asked, do you want me to introduce you? With the most petulant facial expression I've ever seen he practically yelled no, and turned away from me, and started talking to my very uncomfortable uncle. I was embarrassed, enraged, and so very disappointed. Fuck it. Burn the bitch down. I told everyone in the family and they all turned on him. I stopped taking to my dad. It's been 6 months. My sisters are furious at my mom for defending him. Every text he's sent me, I've ripped him a new one, and they've basically cut him out as well. My mom is mad at me for detonating this bomb, but I don't care. I'm tired of ripping parts out of myself to keep this rusted old junker of a family running. No one does anything for me ever, so I'm doing something for me. Sort yourselves out, or fuck off. Life's too short to saddle myself with everyone else's bullshit. I absolutely hate the grocery store next to my current workplace. They are just slow and take forever for anything. I'm a paramedic, and one day during the morning was rather busy, so we only got some sandwiches and something to drink from said grocery store because me and my coworker thought dispatch would send us out any minute. When I got to the checkout I was already fed up with them because they needed 15 minutes for our 2 sandwiches and there were about 10 customers on one single checkout, and as regular they did not open a second one. Additionally, the lady that doesn't know how to handle discounts, coupons or refunds is sitting there. So I shot my coworker a text message, who sat in the ambulance, if he could let my pager go off from the ambulance. So it seems that we were busy. Pager went off. I asked to skip the line, paid and went on my way. We didn't have another transport or emergency for the next 2 hours. Edit. Terrible mistake. I meant to write shoot him a text message. This ended up being long. TLDR at the end. I'm self-employed but wanted to get out of the house a bit, so I took a seasonal job at JCPenney. I have extensive retail management experience, but they just needed a cashier. Cool. I did a few shifts, hated it, but bought new Christmas stuff to replace what I had left behind with my ex at deeply discounted prices. I was already thinking of just quitting because it was peanuts compared to working for myself, but that day the management team presented me an official name tag and acted like it was a huge deal. Fuck. I was scheduled to work for midnight on Thanksgiving and expected to be back at 8 AM Black Friday. I was dressed in a black blazer and skirt combo, so completely professional. Immediately management bitched me out for not wearing a red shirt. Originally they had said they would provide one but never did. I told them I wasn't spending an hour's wages on red shirts for a seasonal job, especially when other jobs usually provided me hundreds of dollars in clothes if a certain image was expected. My tolerance for bullshit had already been exceeded, and I wasn't yet on the floor. I was asked to do go backs, and I kept my section of the store immaculate, while the rest looked horrible. The other seasonals were all high school girls with their first jobs, so not their fault. There was an abandoned cart full of stuff in my section, so I whisked it all back into place in just a minute. Apparently the lady who had abandoned it got pissed and demanded to know who had taken her stuff, but it was so chaotic no one knew, and I said nothing. I just listened in passing as I grabbed the go backs, while she bitched out the manager but nothing could be done for her. Toward the end of the night, I got put on register. These pillows were marked by 1, get them 50% off. This younger guy wanted to purchase them and struggled to understand the deal. I explained. He understood. Cue his Kevin ad, who butted in and said he thinks the sign means buy 1, get 1 free. I said he could visualize it like that if it helped him understand. So he then insisted in a really churlish way that if they returned 1, that they would get their full money back. I said no. He tried arguing with me about it, but I shut that shit down by walking over to the sign, pointing at it, and explaining in full detail why he was an idiot. I wasn't nice, and I was openly hostile, which would have put me in hot water if I had actually planned to stay with this job, but already I had had the worst customers of any Black Friday I had worked. I felt bad for the younger guy though, because he was definitely embarrassed. So I was exhausted, ready to go home, and ready to just forget getting out of the house. Right at midnight, the other girl at the cash wrap starts doing a transaction for a Karen who was in the fitting room for the past half hour. I cash out my register. Their cash out policy is the dumbest, most confusing shit I had ever seen. BTW, because that's my job. Meanwhile, this girl starts doing a credit application. I said fuck it, and went to go clock out, because I had to be there early, and I already knew that girl in particular didn't have to be back until afternoon. I had to wait to be let out of the locked building. I thought it was over. The store manager approached and snapped at me about leaving behind the other girl. Now, at every store I had worked at, again, extensive retail management experience, the policy had been to let non-management personnel leave on time if they had completed their work and they weren't needed. I didn't know of such a policy requiring me to stand there with my thumb up my ass, because it wasn't like they trained anybody on closing procedures, and I hadn't worked a closing there yet. She then made me stand there, still locked in, as she went back to her office to count money. I was fuming at that point. Another person on the management team walked by and gladly let me out, and she was chirpily telling me how great I had done that day and how happy they were to have me. I told her to not expect me back in the morning. She thought I was joking. If you know anything about retail, someone not showing up for Black Friday can throw everything off and ruin the momentum for the entire weekend. Anyway, that management team is all losing their jobs in their store next month, since that store is closing permanently. Oh well. TLDR, don't work at JCPenney, and if you're management, don't mistreat competent seasonal workers that have plenty of other options.